Here we are, Sunday evening. The chance this might be the biggest show ever. We'll see. It's Lombardi's look back and ahead because the 49ers have beaten the Seattle Seahawks. That was a little bit more than 24 hours ago. And the 49ers are now awaiting their next opponent. And, Minnesota lost today. It would have been the Vikings had they won on their home field. But I think that would have been a little bit boring. The 49ers would have blown out the Vikings, who are one of the most fraudulent teams ever. 13 wins, negative point differential in the regular season, negative point differential in one postseason round. And that means they're eliminated because that means they lost by 7 to the New York Giants. So it's not going to be the Vikings. It's either going to be Dallas or Tampa Bay. And game time has just been announced. 49ers against either the Cowboys or Tom Brady and the Buccaneers at 3:30 Pacific time next Sunday on Fox. So the 49ers will officially have a long week of rest here. The 49ers played on Saturday. They will play 8 days later, not 7 days later next week. And obviously, it's going to be a short week of rest for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Dallas Cowboys, depending on who wins tomorrow night on ESPN. I think it's on ABC as well. That is the Monday night game. It's in Tampa because division winner gets the higher seed. The Tampa's the 4. Dallas is the 5 as a wild card. And Dallas, though, is objectively this year has been a more efficient team. So we'll see how that plays out. But, we're going to talk about it today on the show. I have a poll up on Twitter. Looks like 382 people have already voted. It's simple. Who would you rather the 49ers face on Sunday? Tampa Bay or Dallas? So go ahead and cast your vote. You can go to my Twitter right now, and I'm going to put the results up on the screen as they trickle in. Poll still open for 56 more minutes. Twitter is here at Lombardi himself. We're going to talk about that. We're going to look at some of the data. We're going to try to figure out who the better matchup might be for the 49ers. And of course, we're going to look back at the game against the Seattle Seahawks because, well, that's what Lombardi's look back is supposed to be focused on. Here's our general staff-wide article yesterday after the game. 49ers used the second half run to thump the Seahawks. Brock Purdy shines in his historic debut. No, that is not Purdy high-stepping. That's just him in an awkward moment while throwing downfield, although the high step was kind of a cool play yesterday as he's running toward the sideline toward that first down. I have many, many thoughts about Brock Purdy's performance, and then I have many, many thoughts about the 49ers' defensive performance. This is my article after the game yesterday. It's Charles Omenihu, who actually was the defensive star of the game for the 49ers. On a day that Nick Bosa didn't have any pressures because he was getting double-teamed throughout the entire afternoon, Omenihu stepped up with 2 sacks. Obviously huge. This was his second one. He missed the sack, too, so he would have had 3. The biggest one, though, was the second. This was his second sack, but his biggest sack was the first, which happened after he missed the sack. And that first sack for Charles Omenihu was a game-changing play because it was a strip sack. He utilized his full wingspan, 98th percentile arm length, right, coming out of the draft from Texas a few years ago, same school as Kyle Shanahan. Flew in by the quarterback, Geno Smith, and knocked the ball out with those long arms. And the 49ers absolutely needed that play. Levi's was really, really loud yesterday. I went down out of the press box because we're kind of sealed in that press box. It's like a library. I don't like it. There's one stadium that I've been to in the NFL, like new stadium, that's still open right now. The LA Coliseum had an open press box, but there's one modern active NFL stadium that has an open air press box. And I got to go this year. It was Las Vegas. It was Allegiant Stadium. And your experience watching the game is just so much better when you can actually hear the crowd instead of it being muffled through the glass. And yesterday the crowd was muffled through the glass because we were at Levi's Stadium. And I took the elevator down. I went down to the concourse and I just wanted to see part of the game to get a feel for, okay, what's the playoff crowd feeling like? Because I did it back during the postseason in the 2019 run, January 2020. And boy, it was louder than it was that time. I think Levi's starting to develop a little bit of its own character. I happened to go down at just the right time, right when Deebo Samuel was sprinting on the sideline and the Seahawks didn't want to tackle him on the 74-yard touchdown run. I can verify that the noise was ear-splitting. When the volume gets loud enough to where, your ears kind of max out, or, like the waveforms clip a little bit in the ears. It got to that noise as Deebo Samuel was sprinting down the sideline. So it was really loud. A few false starts for the Seahawks. Some procedural stuff was an issue. They had illegal men downfield. I don't know if you could blame that on the crowd or not. Either way, the 49ers were the cleaner team in this game. They obviously did blow Seattle out. And the 49ers do host another playoff game, at least one more. Now, I don't know if they obviously still have a chance to host the NFC Championship game. I thought their chances to do so went down today with Minnesota losing, because that means the New York Giants now play Philadelphia. And there's only one chance for Philadelphia to lose before they would potentially play the 49ers, and that's next weekend in the divisional round. That game should be played on Saturday. Mike sent me the schedule, by the way. Let me read off the rest of the schedule to you. I guess Adam Schefter tweeted it out. So Saturday, I'm going to go Pacific time. I know everybody's in different time zones, but we'll go Pacific time. So Saturday at 1:30, the divisional round will kick off with Jacksonville at Kansas City. That's Saturday at 1:30. That's going to be on NBC, so NBC is going to get a game. Then at 5:15, so you'll probably have a little bit of a break, not too big of a break. On Fox, you'll have the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll talk a little bit more about that matchup and the potential of an upset there to maybe pave the way for a home NFC Championship game. But the 49ers need to focus on the coming game against Tampa Bay or the Cowboys, which is going to happen at 3:30 Pacific on Sunday, also on Fox. So the two NFC games are on Fox. And then as a warm-up to the 49ers game, Cincinnati is going to be playing at Buffalo. It's going to be a good one. Cincinnati at Buffalo at noon Pacific time. That's going to be on CBS. So Saturday, Jacksonville, Kansas City is the opener. The nightcap are the Giants against the Eagles. And then Sunday, Cincinnati at Buffalo is the opener. 49ers hosting either Tampa Bay or Dallas as the nightcap. And then both conference championship games will be the following Sunday, January 29th. Now, whether or not that conference championship game is in Santa Clara, it depends on if the 49ers win, first and foremost. And then second, can the New York Giants knock off the Philadelphia Eagles on the road on Saturday evening, 8:15 p.m. local time in Philly? It's going to be a late game. That's the big question, right, on Saturday. Can that happen? I thought that if Minnesota won today, the 49ers would have had an easy game against the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings were any good. I think that was verified today. Has already been verified before, but today was certainly verified. So that would have meant that Tampa Bay or Dallas went to Philly for that other NFC game. Dallas especially, they just beat Philly really recently. Tampa Bay, they have Tom Brady. I thought that would have been a harder path for Philly, but instead the 49ers get the harder path. They have to face Tampa Bay or Dallas, and Philly. The easy path would have been facing Minnesota. There was no way that Philly was going to face Minnesota, though, based on the seeding. So they get to face the New York Giants. The Giants, I mean, they came close with their backups, right? They weren't playing their main guys against Philly in Week 18. It is a divisional matchup. It's in the, Dallas, Philly would have been NFC East, and this is going to be NFC East. You always have to watch out for those divisional battles if you're the favorite, because that team knows you really well. I thought Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley both looked solid today. I mean, they hung 30+ on the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota does have a decent offense, at least, right? Until they throw short of the sticks on 4th in the season. But I digress. The New York Giants did hold the Minnesota Vikings to 24 points, and that's respectable. It's going to be a lot harder to hold the Philadelphia Eagles to 24 points. But anyway, let's focus on the 49ers. That's the schedule for this weekend. Let's talk about what the 49ers have to do here and what they did against the Seattle Seahawks. It seems so far in the past. Seems like we've been breaking down this game for a while, but this is the last kind of look at what happened yesterday. I've watched the game tape. I can get into a little bit more detail about everything, and we'll put Brock Purdy up on the screen to really get started here. Ooh, I erased my QB title. I got to put another one in here. QB. Let me type this in really fast. Purdy's stats in the second half were absolutely sensational. They looked like this. We're going to go position by position. That's what Lombardi's look back does. Purdy's on the screen. Purdy's now in the text title. He was shaky in the first half. In the second half, 9 of 11, 16.8 yards per attempt. Awesome. Awesome numbers. Now, there's a growing debate about Brock Purdy. Like, battle lines have been drawn, and this always happens with 49ers quarterbacks. There's the honeymoon period. If the QB is playing well, where everybody loves him, nobody has a bad word to say about him. But no matter what, no matter how well he's playing, even the honeymoon period ends usually after like 5 or 6 games. So Jimmy Garoppolo's honeymoon period was the 5 games at the end of the 2017 season. And then, the offseason happened, and then people started to get critical in 2018. And then you had real battle lines drawn after the ACL tear. In 2019 is when the Garoppolo Wars started, like the Clone Wars in Star Wars begun. The Garoppolo Wars that started in 2019. I could sense the battle lines being drawn in the Purdy Wars, and they might have even been drawn a little bit earlier because this is just how NFL fans and 49ers fans in particular work. They're really big on, a lot of people just like players. I don't know if this is an NBA thing that's carried over into the NFL, but they'll pick certain players and not a team, even though NFL football is such a team sport. But, they'll get into either Jimmy Garoppolo's camp, they'll get into Trey Lance's camp, or in this case now, Brock Purdy's camp. And the 49ers had a 3-way dynamic going here, right? With Garoppolo hurt, Purdy replaced him. But the big undercurrent that the staff isn't talking about yet is that Trey Lance was drafted to be their quarterback of the future, and he's also currently hurt, but he's scheduled to come back next year. But now Purdy is playing objectively efficient football. So what do the 49ers do? Well, it creates, at least in these online factions where people are looking for different players to either criticize or praise, it creates a lot of debates, right? So I sense the battle lines for the Brock Purdy wars being drawn, and they're happening in a really interesting place because let's be completely honest. This 49ers offense is absolutely stacked at a level that we probably haven't seen since 1994, since they last won a Super Bowl. And this is the Christian McCaffrey effect, right? They were loaded even before week 8 of this season or week 7 of this season. But they weren't loaded to the level that we see right now. They had Deebo Samuel, they had George Kittle, they had Brandon Ayuk. You go down the list now to Juwan Jennings, Elijah Mitchell. But Christian McCaffrey is hands down one of the best players in football. Christian McCaffrey, in fact, I think has a strong case. He won't win it because he gets snubbed from everything, but has a strong case to be considered for MVP this year because you just see the impact that he had on the 49ers offense. So they added McCaffrey into an already talented mix. And as McCaffrey's gotten acclimated with the playbook, it's hard to believe my eyes as I watch this football team. It really is because, on TV, it might be a little bit harder to see, but when you're there in person, you could see the full formation. The amount of space that the 49ers are working with offensively now is patently absurd. Yesterday, they had 3 receivers average over 20 yards per completion, and they had a 4th receiver average 18.5 yards per completion. Their leading back, McCaffrey, averaged 7.9 yards per carry. I mean, these are numbers that shouldn't be on a box score in an NFL game. These could be at a JV high school level, that kind of level of open domination, but they shouldn't be happening in an NFL game. And they're obviously very, very closely correlated with the fact that Christian McCaffrey has an insane gravitational pull because he's so versatile and dangerous. Deebo Samuel is a versatile and dangerous player. Yesterday, he had a massive game for the 49ers. George Kittle is versatile and dangerous. Brandon Ayuk, even you could say that he's not quite the Swiss Army knife that the other 3 are, but he's still an excellent receiver. He's still somebody who's going to get out there, block his ass off for the other guys, as we saw yesterday. I mean, you have so many capable weapons that I just don't think the defenses know how to cover the 49ers. Like the Seattle Seahawks were at a complete loss. The first half yesterday, Purdy struggled a bit, right? And yeah, I mean, he missed some throws. The football was wet on the first one. In the red zone, the 49ers stalled out. They had to kick 3 field goals. And even though they looked disjointed because of the stalls of that offense, because Purdy was a little bit off, he was spinning out of the pocket, wasn't staying in structure. Even despite that, the 49ers scored 16 points. When's the last time that you saw a disjointed offense on pace to score 30 plus in a game. 16, that's on pace to score 32 in the game. That's what was wild to me is like, I watched that first half. Purdy did not look crisp, didn't look good, looked like he was bailing the pocket too early. And I looked up and the 49ers still had 16. They were still on pace for 32. At that moment, you realize, holy crap, the floor is high. And that is definitely, I mean, Shanahan deserves a lot of credit, but Shanahan isn't able to scheme this up if he doesn't have the stable of weapons that the 49ers do have. And then in the second half, Purdy got better. He was by no means perfect. And, you know, I talk about the Purdy wars and the battle lines being drawn. You know, one side will say, look at these numbers below me for Brock Purdy. They'll say, oh my God, 9 of 11, 16.8 yards per attempt, has the highest quarterback rating of any rookie ever through his first 6 starts, has the highest quarterback rating of any QB, veteran or rookie in the NFL this year. Purdy is awesome. I mean, the data indicates that he's awesome. The data indicates that he's the future starter for the 49ers. No questions asked, all this and all that. But I'm seeing the lines being drawn because, you know, a lot of people are obviously saying that. But then you have a faction of people that's getting a little bit more vocal saying, wait, Purdy's doing and executing what's being asked of him, but the amount of space that he's dealing with throwing to some of these targets is insane. Like the 49ers have all kinds of room, and they're saying he's doing a good job of what's being asked of him, but that job is patently easy. That's what the other side is saying. So as the Purdy debates intensify, and you know they will because they've intensified around every single quarterback, most recently Jimmy Garoppolo, just how 49ers fans are. As they intensify, I anticipate that being the main argument point. Is the 49ers success a function of just how damn talented and loaded this offense is with Christian McCaffrey? Or, you know, is Brock Purdy the driver here? And the truth, as always, to me, is somewhere in between. You know, people are going to take extremes, but I think the truth is somewhere in between. And, you know, I have a couple data points here that I want to talk about. The first being that McCaffrey actually came aboard when Garoppolo was still healthy. And Garoppolo also led the offense to number 1 efficiency in the NFL when McCaffrey was already aboard. Weeks 8 through, I believe Garoppolo got hurt in 14. So weeks 8 to 13. While Jimmy was there, maybe he got hurt at the start of 13. But anyway, it was a shorter sample than Purdy, but the 49ers were still number 1 DVOA over that stretch. Now, they only had 2 30-plus point explosions. They didn't score over 30 essentially every single game, which is what Purdy has done in all games but the one against Seattle where he was hurt. They exploded against the LA Rams, and that was with Christian McCaffrey, right? Throwing, catching, and running for a touchdown. And they exploded in Mexico City against the Arizona Cardinals. So there were 2 big-time 30-plus point games for the 49ers. Then even though they were efficient offensively in the others, for whatever reason, they weren't finishing as many drives. So the points per game were lower than now. So you have to ask yourself, was it, you know, is Purdy doing better in the red zone? Is McCaffrey more integrated in the offense? Or, you know, a big one is the running game better now? Is that opening up other stuff? And I think that's a big variable. The 49ers run game was really struggling early in the season. Before they picked up Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers run game ranked number 26 DVOA. It's not going to cut it. For example, in 2021 and 2019, the 49ers run game ranked about 7 or 8. Kyle Shanahan needs a top 10 run game with the collection of players he has right now to I think, really maximize their potential. So at number 26, the 49ers weren't cutting it. So they trade for Christian McCaffrey. Ever since the McCaffrey trade, since he entered the starting lineup in week 8, the 49ers are number 3 run DVOA. So from 26 to 3, but it took a few weeks to get to that number 3 level. Like the first couple of weeks of McCaffrey, they were like number 9, number 10. They went from below average to above average, but they weren't, you know, elite. And then they've really been one of the best, if not the best run games over the course of maybe the past month or a little bit more. And with that run game, I think the 49ers offense is essentially rounded into completion around Brock Purdy because you have the rushing threat now that creates space. And then you have the Christian McCaffrey threat when he's running pass patterns that creates space that the 49ers didn't have. So, you know, when when people are, argue about Brock Purdy, I think there's truth in everything here. I think he's dealing with a particularly perfect situation for a rookie quarterback. He's playing point guard for the 49ers, and he's doing a good job at it. And, he even says, that's my job to play point guard. I asked Brock the other day if he played basketball at all in an organized fashion, and he said no. But he calls himself a point guard in this offense, and he's doing that. But that can't be mistaken for, oh, this is easy. Because we saw Purdy beat several zero blitzes in that first game against Miami. Those aren't easy to beat. We see him escape the pocket. I said it this morning. His 10-yard split time is just 1/100th of a second slower than Lamar Jackson. So we see that he's quick enough to avoid some of these sacks, probably some sacks that Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't have been able to avoid, right? But I also do think that Purdy has some weaknesses. I think he missed several throws, even some completions yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks were a little bit off the mark. The one to Jawan Jennings behind the defense should have been down the sideline for a touchdown. Instead, he almost gets Jawan Jennings decapitated, right? So Purdy's got to be better with some of the accuracy, but at the same time, the efficiency is still stunning. So, I give him credit, and I also give the 49ers play calling and their roster credit, because at the end of the day, this is a team sport. And we're about to see this enter complete overdrive, both in terms of excitement in the divisional playoffs against Tampa Bay or Dallas, but also in terms of fan debates and media debates too, regarding this quarterback. There's going to be a faction that says it's all scheme, it's all supporting talent. There's going to be a faction that says Brock Purdy is the second coming right now, that he's in a position where he's the one that's the rising tide that's lifting all boats. And I give a whole heck of a lot of credit to Purdy, but I think that this situation is exceptional with the 49ers talent around him. So I think everything is true, and it's a good place to be in if you are the 49ers offense. All right, that's the running back. That's the quarterback situation. Why don't we move on to the running back situation? And if you have any questions for Brock Purdy, save them for a little bit later. I'm going to go through some of these positions, and then we're going to get to the questions in a little bit. Water tastes good. I always say that. There's nothing better in this world, anything, food-wise, drink-wise, than a good drink of water when you're thirsty. And I was thirsty, and I still am. All right, that's what we needed here to continue. This is the running back thing from the Raiders game. Sorry, I'm a game behind. I must have deleted my titles from some of these Seahawks games. Yeah, well, back in the Raiders game, I'm going to delete this in a second. I talked about McCaffrey and Josh Jacobs, and the 49ers ran the dope play in that game. Did they run it to Ray McCloud? They didn't run it to Debo because Debo didn't play against the Raiders. So I think they ran it to Ray McCloud. Anyway, that's the play that Debo scored on against the Arizona Cardinals. That's why I put it up there. But let me take this off because it's the wrong game. I want to talk about that running back position. And here, let's just put this on for now. I don't want to make another text title right now. At running back, the 49ers had 7.9 yards per carry from Christian McCaffrey. And, this is something that to me is fascinating because you remember the lean years for the 49ers, 2020 especially, when they're down to like Austin Walter at running back against the Packers on Thursday night. It just ghastly stuff for the 49ers. And Shanahan's system can't really run if it doesn't have an appropriate running back. You see why they traded all this capital for Christian McCaffrey, because they need a certain caliber of player in that backfield. And now they're just teaming with those types of players in that backfield. You have McCaffrey. You have Elijah Mitchell. By the way, who do people think is a better runner? McCaffrey or Elijah Mitchell? Not a better player. Who do people think is a better runner? McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, the closer. What a change of pace. They didn't use Mason in a close game yesterday, but they used him in a close game in Week 15 against Seattle. You're dealing with McCaffrey and Mitchell, who are physical loads themselves. Those guys aren't afraid to lower their shoulder. But then Jordan Mason's a whole other level of physicality, and he gets to face a weakened defense. They called up Tevin Coleman to give him more money so that way he wouldn't make the practice squad salary, but he wasn't active for the game. And then obviously the 49ers also have Ty Davis-Price, who's another big body who can throw some weight around at that running back room. But boy, they are just stacked But when I look at McCaffrey and Mitchell, to me, it's hard to choose between the two as far as who you want running the ball. So it's really important that Kyle Shanahan mixes and matches his play calls right. I think that McCaffrey has been running better as this season has gone along. I saw some initial impressive, really slippery burst from him on the first few plays when he joined against the Chiefs in week 7. And then I thought that he went into a little bit more of a lull running wise, but these, especially this past week, Christian McCaffrey has really hit a new gear running the football. And it was a run-focused game for him against the Seattle Seahawks. He was more of a passing decoy, right? Deebo Samuel was taking more of the passes. But the crazy thing is that Deebo Samuel, despite 133 receiving yards, was the 49ers' first handoff of the game. It went to him. So if that's something that, that's something that really gives opposing defenses headaches. You don't know who's going to run, who's going to be out there on pass patterns. It's a big deal. Let's put it that way. Positionless skill positions for the 49ers. So now, speaking of Deebo, I think it's clear that he's fully fresh. When he went down with an injury against Tampa Bay in December, the first thing I said is, well, if he can come back in time for the playoffs, this could be good news for the 49ers because he's not going to take wear and tear over the stretch run in December. Same thing for Elijah Mitchell, went down a little bit before that. I said, well, if Elijah Mitchell can come back for the playoffs, he's going to be healthy and he's going to have fresh legs. That has happened with both Samuel and Elijah Mitchell. And I can't underscore how important freshness is for the 49ers. Just think back to where this team was last year. This time last year. The quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, had a torn thumb ligament, and he had torn shoulder, capsule, rotator cuff, whatever in his shoulder. It's near the rotator cuff. So your QB has 2 bad throwing arm injuries. This is because he sustained the shoulder against Dallas last year in the wild card round. So he sustained it this weekend. Okay. I think they played the Sunday game against Dallas. Yeah, they did. They played the Sunday, I believe, the NBC game against Dallas. It was the last game of the divisional playoff weekend. All right, so QB is hurt. Trent Williams is hurt during that playoff run, right? He plays on a high ankle sprain and regrets it against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. McGlinchey's already done for the season. He had been done for the season for a couple months with a torn quad. Other players up front, including Mack and Brunskill, are dealing with stuff over the course of that postseason. And the 49ers are also much thinner in the secondary. And on top of all this, and probably causing some of it, is the fact that the 49ers had to play an NFL record 12 road games last year, the final 4 of which came on the road as elimination games. Obviously, the final 4 of which were going to be road games if it was 12 road games, but the final 4 of which were elimination games. So that was at LA week 18, at Dallas wild card, at Green Bay in an ice storm divisional round, at LA NFC Championship game. You can be sure that the ice storm didn't let any of these players with lingering bruises, injuries, whatever you want to call them, heal, right? It's you don't want to be in horrific conditions like that to allow your body to heal. And you could bet that the round trip flights in pressurized air cabins twice a week, right? Or, you had multiple flights a week. You could bet that didn't help the 49ers heal either. So they essentially ran out of gas in the fourth quarter against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And I bring that up because this season is markedly different for the 49ers. This season has seen the 49ers do better in the regular season, 13-4 versus 10-7, earn a higher seed. Because of that higher seed, they're staying home. And just in the larger picture, they've had much better injury luck than last year. And it comes back to when guys have gotten hurt. Because Elijah Mitchell got hurt when he did, because Deebo Samuel got hurt when he did, they're able to come back, and the 49ers this year, unlike last season, are fresh entering the playoffs. And because of the higher seed, they get extra rest here before the divisional round. These are all huge, huge deals favoring the 49ers moving forward. And I talked about the offensive line being so banged up last year. Well, the O-line this season is not only healthy, but they're also the number 5 pass block efficiency O-line in all of football. And that's awesome because a Shanahan offensive line has never finished anywhere close to this high. They've barely squeaked above the 50th percentile in the past at like number 16. This year, they're number 5. And that's another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about Brock Purdy. We'll put him back up on the screen here. You know, everybody wants to say Purdy this, Purdy that. Keep in mind, he's dealing with a very good supporting cast, and this is the best offensive line that the 49ers have fielded under Shanahan. So Purdy is enjoying all the benefits. I still think he's been immensely impressive because I realize that football is a team sport. I think everybody has to carry their weight. And obviously, so far, Brock Purdy, with those types of numbers in the second half, he definitely carried his weight for the San Francisco 49ers. All right, let's talk a little bit of the defense. You know, I talked about it on a show earlier. 49ers have a couple things defensively. One, here's the bookend for Nick Bosa. Charles Omenihu. Awesome. I mean, here, got to take Omenihu off the screen really fast because I don't think I do. I should get my wingspan measured. 85-inch wingspan for Omenihu. You saw in that sack. You saw him reach. I mean, it was the right arm. He came to the left of Geno Smith, knocked it away. But just picture what Charles Omenihu has done over the past 2 wildcard games. You know, nobody really knew who he was when the 49ers traded with Houston for him last season, right before the deadline. I looked him up right away, and I saw a guy generating a lot of pressure for Houston, but not really knowing how to finish. I mean, he was up there in pressure rate, but he was not up there in sacks. I mean, he barely registered any sacks for the Houston Texans. Joins the 49ers, and the pressure rate is good down the stretch of the 2021 season, but still he's not registering sacks. But he's obviously learning under Chris Kacerek. He's learning from Nick Bosa. He talks about how great the 49ers coaching staff is compared to, I think he called the Houston organization a clown show, right? He said Houston's a clown show, but here the 49ers aren't. And all that work, all that development over the back half of the season finally paid off for Omenihu in the sack column against Dallas. And not just against any offensive lineman. He was going up against Tyron Smith, left tackle for the Cowboys, perennial Pro Bowler, somebody who benches like 600 pounds. I don't know if it was 600 or 700, but Tyron Smith is one of the strongest men in the NFL. And Omenihu straight up overpowered him against Dallas. He shocked him. Tyron Smith is not used to guys just going at his chest, power move, bull rush, and pushing him back. And in that wild card game against the Cowboys last year, Charles Omenihu did just that. The thing about him, though, that what makes him so talented is that he's 6'5". He's got that massive wingspan, right? Has the strength to go with it, but he's also extremely athletic. I mean, that's really, really big. Let's look at his spider chart right here. I put the spider chart in the article yesterday. This is it right now for Charles Omenihu. Right, this is percentile against other people at his position. Look at the wingspan and the arm length. Look at the height. That's all you want it to be. But then the athleticism, I mean, the 40 doesn't matter. It's right here. Nobody cares about a hand size. Doesn't need a big hand size. People want explosiveness off the line and maybe some agility to be able to get after the QB in tight spaces. Well, look at this. 91st percentile vertical jump, 70th percentile broad jump. Vertical, though, is going to show explosiveness. And he can come off of the ball. Shuttle's going to show agility, 78th percentile. He can get around the backfield. So Charles Omenihu is, I mean, across the board here in the metrics that matter, it's like you went into a lab and you built a pass rush, right? I know we use that for Nick Bosa a lot, but in a lot of ways, physically, Charles Omenihu also gives you exactly what you need. And yesterday was so impressive to me because he recalibrated while he was flying in on the dive against Geno Smith to knock that football out. He lined up inside. You know, the 49ers lined up Arden Key inside last year a lot. That was their big specialty last year. That's the big Chris Kacerek specialty, right? Is lining players, these pass rushers in on the inside. Defensive tackle alignments. They call it the lightning package. It's like the NASCAR package, except the lightning package. That's what the 49ers call it. And Kacerek has been tinkering with stuff like that since his days in Detroit. But it got really serious with the 49ers, I think, against Minnesota, actually, in the playoffs to end the 2019 season. Remember when he lined D Ford up at a defensive tackle spot and he lined him up next to Nick Bosa and they started running stunts. They started running games and Minnesota got completely blown out of the water. I mean, that's when the idea was first ported over to the 49ers. Well, you fast forward to 2021 because Bosa was hurt in 2020, so you couldn't really do anything crazy that year. Kerry Hyder led the team in sacks, 8.5. Fast forward to 2021, and that's when they got Arden Key, who's now with Jacksonville, by the way. Maybe a Super Bowl reunion with the 49ers. That'd be crazy. No, probably not going to happen, but maybe. Never know. Never rule it out. Anyway, Arden Key was a lanky pass rusher, formerly with the Raiders, who didn't do all of anything with the Raiders. He was there for, I think, 3 seasons and had 3 sacks. It was a first-round pick, too. Didn't work out. When Key came over to the 49ers, Kasarik said, oh, this guy is athletic. I've got to move him to the inside whenever I can because the lighter guys, you can't put them in there on base downs. You need size to survive inside and running situations. So the 49ers, sit Drake Jackson sometimes against run-heavy teams and run-heavy situations. They want a little bit more beef for the insides. They call up another defensive tackle. Anyway, you have to earn the right to rush the passer, and especially you have to earn the right to run the lightning package with those defensive ends lined up on the inside. And the 49ers began earning that right in the third quarter, right before Charles Omenihu made the game-changing play. They got the Seattle Seahawks into 3rd and 14. And on that 3rd and 14, you had Omenihu on the inside, and he got to work against Gabe Jackson, right guard, formerly of the Raiders, now with the Seattle Seahawks. And the way that he beat Gabe Jackson was so damn impressive. Explodes off the ball, long strides, but also you saw like the vertical jump and the broad jump, those kind of muscles, those kind of quick twitch type 2 fibers. You saw those fire right off the line. Gabe Jackson, interior linemen aren't used to blocking guys that quick. And Omenihu came in at 280 for the 49ers, and now he weighs 265. He's cut 15 pounds to fit the speed rushing profile that the 49ers are looking for. And he just blasts by Gabe Jackson. Dives in there, uses we got to make it wide again, uses the wingspan, uses that right arm to get out there and knock that ball out from Geno Smith. And that's some physical prowess right there. And he had 2 sacks, and he was the 49ers' highest graded defender to complement Nick Bosa. I also talked about the cornerback room. I think that the 49ers should be really bullish about Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir. Lenoir played his best game of the season. We know that Charvarius Ward's a good player. We know that he's going to give up occasional big plays to good receivers because all NFL corners do. But I think in the big picture, the 49ers are in such a better spot at cornerback than they were last year. And by extension, probably even a better spot at safety than they were last year. I mean, Jaquiski Tartt did drop the biggest potential interception of the season, right? The 49ers probably beat the Rams if he catches it. At least their win probability is significantly higher. And Jimmy Ward's no longer at safety. He's playing slot cornerback now. But guess what? Tashawn Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga, an all-pro, have been just fine. So secondary is a lot better now than it was last season. And the linebackers only get better. And I talk about this being a matchup with either Tampa Bay or Dallas. And right after this, we're going to go to the poll to see who's in the lead, Tampa Bay or Dallas, as far as who 49ers fans want their team to play. Against either of these teams, the 49ers linebackers are going to be the difference that makes them favored. That's how good the 49ers linebackers are. You have Warner, you have Greenlaw, and then Alshire and base. Those guys are the difference makers that make them favored because they bind this defense together. Like I said, pass rush a bit weaker than 19. No Buckner, no Ford. Omenihu, though, stepping up. Secondary stronger than 19. Secondary stronger than last year. Linebacking core glues it all together. All right, time to see the poll. Who would you rather see the 49ers play? The Cowboys or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Let us see. Let me get this sucker big up on the screen. All right, well, I would say it's a landslide. I think people agree on team strength. Let's put it that way. All right, I got to share this sucker for everybody. See if you guys like this one. First time that we put a poll up on the show. Here it is. Who would you rather the 49ers face next Sunday? 70.1%, so essentially 70-30, in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm sure the comment section right now is blowing up right now. But here, I want to study both of these two teams. I would put it up on the screen to see who the 49ers would rather play. And I could see why 70% of the people, let's put it this way, once we start looking at this data, we'll understand why 70% of people want Tampa Bay instead of Dallas. All right, so here we go. Why don't we take a look at team tiers? There we go, team tiers. Yeah, we'll do team tiers first. Put this big up on the screen. So here you go. These are team tiers over the course of the whole season. So the 49ers, and this is sometimes I erase week 1 just because I don't think it's very predictive of what's going on since Trey Lance was starting and it was played in a monsoon. But here, just to include everything, week 1 is there. Looks like the Chiefs are the top team in the league. 49ers are on the border of tier 1 and tier 2. 49ers profile looks a whole lot like Philadelphia's and Cincinnati's. All right, where are the Cowboys? So the Cowboys are a tier 3 team. They're right here. 1 tier below, or maybe a tier and a half below the 49ers. You have to go down another tier and a half to get to the Buccaneers. They're like, they straddle tier 4 and tier 5. Tampa Bay has a below average offense and an above average defense, whereas the Dallas Cowboys have an above average offense and an above average defense. But Tampa Bay has Tom Brady, and Tom Brady can go into playoff mode. So do the 49ers want Tom Brady with a worse team or the Cowboys, who are the better team? If you look at Football Outsiders and DVOA, then, yeah, Mike just texted me. Mike has a great idea. He wants me to show you team tiers from weeks 14 to 18. Mike, if you could text me the graphic that I sent you from week 14 to 18, I think I get it up on the screen pretty easily. So anyway, we'll get back to that. Why don't we look at DVOA right now? Why don't I put this up on the screen? This is Football Outsiders. They do great stuff. Make sure to check it out. I'm going to try to skinny this up a little bit so you can see it better on the screen. There we go. So I could highlight where teams are. This is DVOA for the full season. 49ers number 2 behind only Buffalo. And the choice or the options to play are Dallas at number 6 with the number 15 offense and the number 2 defense and a number 10 special teams, and Tampa Bay at number 17, so slightly below average with a very average offense, number 16, defense number 13, special teams number 31. So to me, Tampa Bay is a mediocre team, and the NFC South was mediocre. They're a mediocre team that has an aging Tom Brady, right? 45-year-old Tom Brady. Whereas Dallas, I think, is an objectively good team. They're not great, but they're good. The offense has been middle of the pack for Dallas because Dak Prescott's thrown a lot of interceptions this year. But the defense has been number 2 in the NFL, behind only the 49ers, and the special teams hasn't screwed things up either. So you can see, and obviously it was very apparent on the team tier charts here, that Dallas is good. They're an upper right team. Tampa Bay, they're mediocre. It's sketchy. They're here with the pack. They haven't separated themselves from the pack. So that's the way that I look at it. I think that Dallas is clearly better than Tampa Bay. But because Tampa Bay won the division, they're at home, and Tom Brady's at home in the playoffs, you obviously cannot discount that. So the poll though thinks that even with Tom Brady on the Bucs, people would rather face the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to do some week 14 to 18 team tiers. If Mike is able to find it right now, I'll do it right now. If not, while we wait for him, why don't I do weeks 14 to 18 DVOA? You can actually filter this by week. It's a really cool tool. Look, I click on this. And the reason I'm doing 14 to 18 is that's Purdy's first start. And do we do the wild card round? Yeah, why not? Why don't we see what it looks like, including the wild card round? I think they might have put the 49ers Seahawks game in there. All right, so weeks 14 to 18, defense adjusted value over average. Overall, 49ers number 1. Number 1 offense, number 1 pass offense, number 2 rush offense, number 5 defense, number 15 special teams. Pass defense hasn't been as good for the 49ers ever since Purdy took over. Not his fault, obviously, but we did see that game against the Raiders then. We did see some struggles yesterday against the Seahawks. Number 13 pass defense, number 7 run defense for the 49ers, number 5 overall. So defense has slipped a bit down the stretch. They hope to roar back to life, but boy, the offense has been really, really good across the board. And in that last month sample, let's see where Dallas is at. Because Dallas has been leaking some oil. Yeah, here we go. Dallas over the last month is the number 20 DVOA team. They haven't run the football well. The pass offense is number 17. The total offense is 16. And their defense is 18. So Dallas has been below average over the last month. That's really interesting. Good thing I'm looking this up right now. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay, I think they've been getting better as this season has gone along. But maybe they haven't been. Brady, at least, has been getting better. I thought that he was really good over the 2 weeks to enter the playoffs. But look at them. Ever since week 14, I know that loss against the 49ers is in there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 27 DVOA. That's where the Vikings are for the whole season. So 27 DVOA for Tampa Bay. I'm going to look at the team tier chart here in a second. Mike just sent it. Yeah, not very good. 17 offense, defense in the 20s. So according to this, Tampa Bay's really struggled. And we'll see what the tier chart is. But Dallas and Tampa Bay have both fallen off in recent weeks. So we'll see who wins tomorrow and then which team shows up to Levi Stadium. All right, got it here. Have to open this up right here. Boom. We're going to get team tiers 2022 up on the screen for everybody. All right, stop screen, share this. Here it is. Weeks 14 to 18, NFL team tiers 2022. This is since Purdy took over. So this doesn't include the playoff game, but it includes the 49ers as a tier 1 team over here on the right. And then how I said both the Cowboys and the Buccaneers have been mediocre. And look, yeah, EPA team tiers verifies that. So 49ers are tier 1, alone in tier 1 here, in fact. There's tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Dallas is tier 6. And Tampa Bay is tier 7. So, I mean, I've always said the 49ers should be confident regardless of who they play from the NFC. I think Minnesota's, according to this, has been performing better than Dallas or Tampa Bay over the past month. But I think Minnesota as a whole did not scare anyone. I think the 49ers would have rather played them. I think we saw why today when Kirk Cousins was throwing short of the sticks on 4th in the season. But the point of this is right here, putting this up is to show you that the 49ers are playing much better football than either the Buccaneers or the Dallas Cowboys, who both leaked oil to the finish line of the regular season. Dak Prescott this year has not been mistake-free. He's thrown 15 interceptions and threw interceptions in 7 straight games to end the regular season. He had 5 separate games in which he threw 2 interceptions each. And the reason I say all this, I mean, obviously interceptions are bad, but as far as a matchup with the 49ers, this 49ers team led the NFL in interceptions during the regular season. 20 picks, tied with Pittsburgh. They didn't pick off Geno Smith, but if Dak has been throwing 2 per game on a consistent basis, you have to feel that the 49ers might be able to pick him off again. I remember K'Wan Williams got him last year on one of those shorter throws. I think the 49ers could also get Tom Brady. They got him. Tom Brady didn't throw a lot of picks, but Dre Greenlaw got him and then had Tom Brady sign the football after the game when Tampa Bay came in December. So, maybe Greenlaw, if Tampa Bay wins tomorrow, maybe Greenlaw will wish he wouldn't have done that. But Brady's going to have a chance at revenge against him coming up on Sunday if he does beat the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be a fun game to watch tomorrow night. All right. Have I gone through everything? I did Lombardi's look back. I did the game times. I did the poll, 70-30 People want Tampa Bay to face the 49ers. It's time for a Q&A. We're 49 minutes into this thing. That's a talent right now. I've built up my voice. I'm late season endurance. I could talk for 50 minutes without stopping. No problem. Good thing I don't have a cold, knock on wood. Don't want that to develop. I've already had 2 colds this season. Don't want any more. It's tough for this, Q&A. Jason announces there's a Q&A right after I did. Good stuff. All right, I'm checking it out. I have not been in the chat section at all, so I apologize if I missed something, although I do see a big one here that I'm trying to get to. There's just so many. Oh, here it is. All right, thanks, Mark. Do you still think Jimmy is a better QB than Brock? Brock's accuracy, ability to throw over more of the field, his ability to go through his progressions, not to mention his mobility and athleticism. How is Jimmy better? I'm not so sure that Purdy's accuracy is better than Garoppolo's. And Garoppolo's more arm strength and better. I mean, Purdy hasn't been all that accurate. He's been throwing to really, really open guys. Purdy is more athletic than Garoppolo for sure. Absolutely 100% more athletic than Garoppolo. For that reason, I think Purdy has more upside. I think there's still more polishing that needs to be done because the downside's a little bit bigger when he is missing on some of these, even short range throws he's been missing. But yesterday, Purdy missed some gimmies in the first half, intermediate, and he went deep to Ayuk instead of going crosser to Samuel. Stuff like that, Purdy still has to clean up. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Jimmy Garoppolo for sure. Is he at that higher ceiling? Is he consistently better right now? Well, yes, because Garoppolo isn't 100% with the foot. He's probably not even close yet. That's probably going to be a couple weeks away. If Garoppolo can come back in that 6 to 8 week window, which basically begins today, right? 6 weeks today from the time of the injury, then he's going to be a limited quarterback with that foot. So I think the goal for Garoppolo is just to get him healthy. And this is a debate that doesn't really matter right now. It won't matter until Jimmy Garoppolo is 100%, and that's not going to be anytime soon. But if he's active, he gives you QB room depth. And for now, we can just appreciate the fact that these are 2 similar quarterbacks in release time. Like, they both have really quick releases. Garoppolo probably a little bit quicker, but it's allowed the offense to seamlessly transition from one to the other. But both obviously benefited from the fact that the 49ers have an all-star collection of talent. I mean, the fact that they have multiple quarterbacks that can run this offense efficiently, though, that has saved the season. Will Vita Vea be a game changer if the 49ers play the Buccaneers? He got hurt pretty early in the game back in December. Vita Vea's from the Bay Area, by the way. Milpitas, right? I think he's, down there from Southeast Bay. Massive body, 340 plus pounds. Guys like that always have the potential to wreck the game. So it was a big deal that Vita Vea got hurt during 49ers Bucs back in December. So, yeah, you have to scheme around him. He's a really, really good player. Somebody asked if Jimmy Garoppolo helped Brock Purdy with a quarterback sneak. I'm not sure. Maybe in the meeting room they talked a little bit about it. I know that Brady helped Garoppolo with it, but it has looked better for Brock Purdy. This is a good question. How likely is it that the Giants beat the Eagles? My first gut instinct was not very likely, but then I realized, hey, it's a division matchup. Those can be dicier for the favorite, right? Daniel Jones looked decent to me today. Saquon Barkley is a monster, and the Eagles aren't playing their best football. You put all that together, they do have a bye, though. Sometimes that bye hurts teams. Last year, the 49ers knocked off a Packers team coming off a bye. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen, and you just have to let the game play out. Now, the cool thing is that's going to happen on Saturday night, and the 49ers don't play till Sunday afternoon. So the 49ers will know what is in store for them the next week based on what happens on Saturday. Now, Philadelphia would have a longer week of preparation than the 49ers, but 49ers would still get a full week. Philadelphia would have that extra day. 49ers got the extra day last year, right? They needed that badly based on how tired they were, and it didn't matter. They still ran out of gas against the Rams. Yeah, Miguel is right. Aiden, please no, not the Giants in a rainy championship game. He remembers the 2011 season. Although if the 49ers get to beat the Cowboys and then they get to beat the Giants, they could avenge a lot of painful memories in the postseason. They've already avenged the Cowboys ones, but they haven't really avenged the painful Giants memories yet, right? They, maybe the wild comeback game at Candlestick, what was it, January 2003? They got some revenge against the Giants there, but they lost, obviously, at the end of the 1990 season in the NFC Championship game with the Roger Craig fumble. And then they lost in the Kyle Williams fumble game. They fumble a lot against the Giants in January, at least at Candlestick Park. Candlestick no longer there. I visited the site the other day, by the way. Sad, but wanted to do it, kind of pay tribute, during the playoffs. The Kyle Williams game was brutal for the 49ers, though. Who do I think is the 49ers' most underrated player? Oh, that's a really good question. People have thoughts? Put your answers on underrated player into the comment section. I'm actually curious to see what people say. Let's see the comment section fill up here. Most underrated player on the 49ers. I have a couple in mind. Ooh, yeah. Oh, these are good. They're coming in. All right, Sergio, Jordan Willis, really good. James, Juwan Jennings, really good. Jason, Daniel Brunskill, not a bad one. Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks is a really, really good one. Spencer Burford, Ray McLeod, Charles Omenihu, Jimmy Ward, Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, this is pretty cool. There's a lot of underrated players on the 49ers. I'm not like Gibson. I'm not arguing with any of these. This is really neat. This is like an insightful question and insightful answers. Brendel, Pro Bowl alternate, Jake Brendel, getting Jennings again, Gibson again. I mean, Gibson, 6 interceptions. McGlinchey, really good one. We might have a winner. We might have a winner because Mike McGlinchey is so ridiculed by people that don't actually look at overall consistency. They just pick up like little individual plays, but he's an above average pass protector and above average run blocker. I mean, one of the better run blockers in the game. And he had a 100% pass block win rate against the Seattle Seahawks. So did Trent Williams. Mike McGlinchey, I mean, he is by definition underrated. And he's worked to get to this point, but he's playing a really important position at right tackle. And I think he kind of came onto the map. I think people started to respect it against the Las Vegas Raiders because Max Crosby's a good damn football player. And Mike McGlinchey really held him in check in that game. Jordan Willis is another really good one too. That was a great question. Most underrated player. I'm glad that I let you guys answer it. Who poses the bigger problem, Jalen Hurts or Daniel Jones? Well, it depends on if Hurts is fully healthy. If he's fully healthy, I'd say Jalen Hurts because they got better receivers in Philadelphia. But if he's not fully healthy, if there's still something really wrong with that shoulder, and we'll find out for sure here next week, then it might be Daniel Jones. We'll see. How about the most underutilized player? Maybe Ray McLeod, but it's hard to say that somebody's underutilized. They just have so many great weapons. So they've obviously been scoring at will. So, underutilized implies that they're not achieving their, desirable offensive efficiency. So Nick Bosa had 0 pressures for the first time in his career in over a full game the other day. Faced a lot of double teams, but he was still impactful. And Charles Omenihu cleaned up for him. Tyler Kroft, most underutilized. I like that. Jordan Mason. Corey Monroe thinks that Kyle Juszczyk is criminally underutilized. I would agree. I agree in years where the 49ers aren't as stocked and healthy as they are now. It's like use Kyle Juszczyk more. It's cheat code, really, right? But this year with McCaffrey and everybody else, it's hard to. There's only so many touches to go around. Not easy. Sergio, after playing Mariota, would rather play Daniel Jones. The Giants didn't look too bad today, but there was still weird stuff the Giants did. They let Minnesota back into the game. the second down before the drop on the crossing pattern that gave Minnesota its final chance. They crawled into a shell. They had quarterback sweep called to Daniel Jones. I mean, Minnesota's not stopping a nosebleed. Just keep on playing offense. I thought that all three teams today that lost, so this is not talking about the Giants. This is talking about the three losers today. They lost in pathetic fashion. First, you had Miami, and it wasn't a good look for Mike McDaniel. Miami unable to get a playoff on 4th and inches in time. It's not that hard. It's 4th and inches. Get up to the line and run a sneak, right? They lose because they can't get off a play in time on 4th and inches. And then Minnesota decides to one-up them. They're like, hey, hold my beer. We're going to lose in an even more pathetic way. We are going to throw with Kirk Cousins, of all people. We're going to throw 2 or 3 yards downfield when we have to throw 7 or 8 with the season on the line on 4th down. Embarrassing, right? Like, how can you even think of throwing short? At the very least, it needs to be a desperation toss-up beyond the first down marker. Wasn't that? Vikings went away without a whimper. And then that third game, I mean, this is a Greg Roman game, right? He's the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. And they're driving down the field. I get it. Tyler Huntley's the backup quarterback, and he struggled with that throw into the flat that got tipped. It needed to deliver that better on one of the possessions right before the big fumble return from the QB sneak at the goal line. But he had a chance to tie the game. It's 24-17. And Greg Roman calls a quarterback draw on second down, just wastes a play. And not only does it waste the play, there was holding called, moved it back 10 yards and created an and 20 situation. I mean, if you're a Ravens fan, I hope you threw up in your mouth when you saw Greg Roman call a draw play with minimal time left to just essentially take away a shot at the end zone, and then it caused holding. And then if you're a Dolphins fan, you probably threw up in your mouth when your team couldn't get a snap off on 4th and inches, even though the refs made it clear that it was 4th and inches for a good 30 seconds. And if you were a fan in that second game of the Minnesota Vikings, you threw up in your mouth when Kirk Cousins threw it short of the sticks for a Kirk Cousins special to lose the season. But boy, 3 pathetic ways to lose for the teams today. Really bad. We'll see what happens tomorrow in Cowboys, Tampa Bay. If Kirk Cousins was the 49ers quarterback in the Super Bowl, would they have won with a 10-point lead against the Chiefs? Absolutely not. They wouldn't have gained a 10-point lead against the Chiefs. You guys see Kirk Cousins? I mean, it never wins in prime time, never wins in playoff games. I mean, Garoppolo was a huge part of the reason why the 49ers took the lead. He was 19 of his first 21 in the Super Bowl. I don't think Cousins would have gotten 19 of his first 21. And then Garoppolo's day very clearly changed, like flipped, guys, when he took that helmet-to-helmet hit. I mean, it was a pass protection issue for the 49ers in that Super Bowl. That's why it's such a big deal that pass protection has gotten so much better. They are now the number 3 pass block efficiency team in the league, including the wild card game. They're behind only Tampa Bay and Philadelphia. Why do you think Tampa Bay's pass protection is so good? Because they need it to protect Tom Brady. Why do you think Philadelphia is surging offensively? Because they have great pass protection for Jalen Hurts. Any quarterback, I don't care who you are, you need good pass protection. If you don't have good pass protection, you're not going to be a good QB. Look at this Super Bowl the following year after the 49ers were there. Mahomes was there with 5 backup offensive linemen and got slaughtered. Didn't see the end zone. So even Mahomes is not going to get it done without good pass protection. Purdy's behind the number 3 pass blocking line in the pass blocking offensive line in the league this year, playing great football. Jimmy Garoppolo behind the same offensive line was playing his best football, lowest interception rate. Pass protection is heavily correlated with how well a quarterback performs on an efficiency basis. It just is. And Kirk Cousins would have been bad behind that offensive line for the 49ers in 2019. '49ers offensive line coaches need raises. They've been doing a good job, that's for sure, this year. Chris Furster, main offensive line coach. And here's one thing, Mike. He's responding to somebody, but Brock Purdy, yes, the one weakness that I think we've seen from Brock Purdy so far that has been most pronounced is that he is rolling out of trouble a little bit too soon instead of stepping up. And I think it's a habit that's stuck from college. Shorter quarterback versus college guys, he was more athletic, right, relative to them. So he could buy more time to see down the field. But that height for Brock Purdy, you see this happen a lot with shorter guys, and Russell Wilson will roll out a lot too to gain some more vision downfield. But what that hurts is the structure of the offense, especially an offense that has so many weapons. Somebody's going to free up, right? Somebody's going to be open, but you have to be in the pocket to make sure that you maximize your chances of hitting them. Kyler Murray, yeah. Brian Greasy, indeed. He's been doing a great job as 49ers quarterbacks coach. Would Kyle rather face the Cowboys or the Bucs? I think you'd man, it's tough. I respect both defenses, Dallas's and Tampa Bay's. Dallas's has been better this year, but I think the 49ers are worried about themselves. They have to be. 49ers have been the best team in football since they picked up McCaffrey. You can't be worried about whether you're playing the Cowboys or the Buccaneers. You're better than both of them. Take care of business at home. Weather should be good next week. That's important to remember as well. All right. This has been Lombardi's Look Back. We've gone for an hour and 6 minutes up until 10 p.m. Show's no longer growing, so I think it's time to call it a night. Thank you to everybody. We went through a lot today. We talked about what time the game's going to be Sunday, 3:30 p.m. on Fox. That was just announced. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking a lot about 49ers, Buccaneers. 49 Cowboys, Buccaneers. Winner of that has to fly back to the West Coast to face the 49ers. So that's big. 70% of you want to see Tampa Bay win because Tampa Bay has been weaker on paper than Dallas this year. And that would bring Tom Brady to the Bay Area for a playoff game, which would be absolutely wild to be lit. I mean, Tom Brady's already come through once this year, but the Cowboys come through. Well, Dallas in Levi's Stadium. Oh my God. And for the playoffs, are you kidding me? So much history there. That would be wild. But we can close the book now on 49ers Seahawks. 49ers 7-0 against the NFC West. It's not going to get any better, any worse than that because the rest of the NFC West is eliminated. Unless the 49ers beat themselves, maybe we could say they're 7-1 against the NFC West. I don't think people would want to hear that, though. Either way, 49ers will be favored on Sunday when that line comes out. I can assure you that they will be favored after quite the performance against the Seattle Seahawks. I'll leave you with this. Put this up on the screen, too. Hold on. Let me find where we can get this up here. I'm going to stop a screen share. Going to open up my Twitter. And I'm going to show you some point differentials from playoff weekend. Super wild card weekend. 69.6% want Tampa Bay, 30.4% want Dallas. The poll is closed. The hour window is done. We had 4,425 votes. So it's a 70-30 split. All right, here we go. There's a typo on here. I meant to put Bills +3, but that's okay because you will still get the point. 49ers led the NFL in point differential this season. Wild card weekend, they're +18. Jaguars are +1. Bills are +3, not +1. Giants +7. Bengals +7. So everybody won by a possession except for the 49ers, who blew out their opponent. I'll leave you with that. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for watching Lombardi's Look Back. More good stuff coming moving forward. Everybody take care.